Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It is Mondays down south, and another crazy week of football here. We've got a guest on, and actually, my first time seeing the quad box. Gents, I will say I actually really like this. I like the quad box a lot.
too.
It zooms my face out a little bit, so I'm not just blown up on the screen. We gotta do this more often. But before we intro the guest here, we're gonna go over our topic for the day. And so our topic is picking three candidates who are non-quarterbacks for a potential MVP position. Now, there's a lot of quarterbacks that are performing super well this year. Skill positions, are hit and miss this year and compared to prior years. But we were forced to select three guys who are not playing the quarterback position who are in the running for MVP. So before we get into this, I'm going to intro my buddy here, Shiv, local Charlatan. And Shiv, maybe if you can give a little bit of a background on yourself. I know you just finished a marathon last week, ran it under 3 hours, which is wild.
Jeez, that's crazy.
But Sai, hold the applause because I don't think you're going to get along with him. You're a South Carolina guy. Shiv is actually a University of Tennessee guy. So I'm going to let you guys duke it out here virtually. But Shiv, I'll turn the floor over to you and just let the world know who you are, man.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, Zach and Evan and Sai. It's a pleasure to be here with you guys. This is definitely long overdue. I've been pestering Zach to give me a shot for a while now, but it's probably been a long pipeline of guests that have had to earn their stripes to get on this. So glad it finally worked out. But yeah, thanks for that, Zach, for that intro. But you know, as probably all of us on this call, and I'm sure the audience of this podcast and many other podcasts that are similar in nature, huge fan of sports. So as Zach mentioned, I went to undergrad at Tennessee, graduated in 2015. Probably the rockiest 4 years in terms of sports at the University of Tennessee during my time. I mean, I thought it was just a 4-year microcosm and, a little unlucky streak, but it's actually ended up being a, 10, 15-year streak of just some bad down years. We had a little bit of a run last year, but then got our hearts broken by those Gamecocks in a game we had absolutely no business losing, but we deserve to lose just because you can't lose focus on a stage like that. But huge avid sports guy. Love the NFL, the NBA, college football, college basketball, golf majors. Yeah, but from Charlotte, lived here pretty much all my life. I've recently married like 6 months ago, so to stay the in because I'm trying to keep the noise down while my kind of wife winds down for the evening. As Zach mentioned, I did just run my first marathon, the Charlotte Marathon, a couple of weeks ago, which it was amazing to have my very, very good friend Zach at the finish. So dived into his arms, I think, before I dived into my wife's and my mom's arms when I saw him at the finish. But it's been cool to do that. I've always I kind of like staying fit, and running's been a hobby of mine. So got a couple more marathons lined up next year that keep me focused and distracted from some of the social stuff that Zach and our crew down in Charlotte kind of tend to get ourselves involved in. So it's been productive to channel my energy that way. But a pleasure to be here with you guys. I'm looking forward to the dialogue, and it's going to be fun.
I want to give you a quick shout out, Shiv, because last year I randomly got a call from Zach, right? And I'm with like my mom and my family friends, and I get a call from Zach and I pick it up and he's like, "Hey man, Just I had a quick question for you. Like, I'm trying to figure out how to put a kurta on, and I can't figure out like how this
Yeah,
part and that part goes. And like, I
yeah,
don't think I've ever been more proud to get a phone call from Zach regarding anything in my life because
yeah,
as this OG like Indian friend growing up, like to hear
yeah,
that Zach was going to Indian wedding, even though it hurt a little bit that the first one wasn't mine. Not that I'm anywhere close. It was
yeah,
pretty.
yeah,
It made me really happy, and I told my mom, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, that's so amazing!" So I thought it
yeah.
was so cool that he got to come out to LA
No,
and celebrate with you, and he told me all about it.
yeah,
So
yeah. No,
congratulations, man.
no, thank you. It meant the world to have him there, and he killed it. He looked every. I mean, you would aside from obviously the complexion, Zach fit the bill, man. And we had obviously half the wedding was Indian, and Zach
Mhm.
fit right in, and we have a couple of funny stories from that wedding, which I'm sure we can maybe cover
We'll
in a
have to.
separate session later. That
Yeah,
we'll
Shiv. I'm
save
just
that for
cracking
another
up because
day.
Shiv being the awesome dude he is, he said he offered. He said, "Hey, why buy a Kurt if you could just wear mine?"
Hmm.
Shiv, if you're running a marathon in under 3 hours, you ain't my size, all right. So I didn't want to ruin any of his Kurtas, so
Yeah,
I had to go
yeah.
get
Well,
my
hey,
own. But I appreciate
there's
it.
I
some
love
extra.
that.
Those threads are meant to get stretched, man. So I
True.
think
All right, I can start us off. I mean, I guess we going 1 to 3. Start with the
Yeah,
chalk
sure.
answers first. So the obvious answer is Christian McCaffrey. I think he's the one guy on this list that is genuinely in the MVP conversation, whereas a lot of these other guys are maybe more of a bit of a stretch and more in the offensive player of the year conversation. So, and I think you can see when like we talked about in the last couple of weeks, and the 49ers don't have all their stars on the field, Trent Williams being one, Debo another. They're just not the same team, and we've seen it before with McCaffrey. So the things he can do through the air and on the ground, you just can't stop him. So I think he's the obvious first choice here.
I like that. That's simple.
I like it too.
Yeah.
So how
I'm not
about
gonna.
we send it to you, and then we'll go Shiv, and then I'll bat cleanup here.
Yeah, no problem. I'm gonna. Okay, I compared this man to February, like a few episodes ago when we were talking about months. I said you look across the line, you start shivering when you see him. I'm gonna stand by that. Myles Garrett is an MVP conversation for me. I think of defensive players, and I think of ones that can impact a game and in a profound way that can legitimately win you a game, right? Like that's what you need to be able to do to be in consideration for MVP. And I think Myles Garrett is one of the best examples of that this year. Whereas in the past, you had your Aaron Donalds of the world, you had players like that, and I think Miles is kind of evolving into his own version of that. So as a game record, that's an easy one for me. That where I didn't want to be as offensive, base with the pick. So I'm going to go Myles Garrett for one.
Given that Cy took that, I'm gonna go my one. If Miles Garrett was my 1A in terms of defensive players, my 1B's got to be TJ Watt. Um, Again, not statistically, right on par with Miles in output. Right behind him in sacks. But talk about impacting a game, being disruptive. Again, being the anchor to a team that has no business being 6-3, given their offensive woes. Right. I think it's a surprise to me that Pittsburgh still has a chance here. It's again that AFC North is going to be very, very interesting to see how things play out in the weeks and months to come. But I think TJ has made a tremendous impact, and even though again the defensive unit is not as impressive holistically as Cleveland, as San Francisco, as some of these other teams, I think individually, TJ has made such a profound impact on that team, and it is really in many ways the reason that they're still in contention there. And it's nice to see, on offense things are picking up a little bit too with the run game with Warren and Harris and Pickett coming into his own. So I'll go with TJ
I
if I
love
took
it.
Miles
I
from me.
love it. Two defensive players right off the bat, ironically from the same division too. You gotta love it. I'm gonna switch it back over here. Offense. You gotta go with Tyreek Hill, man. Tyreek Hill over 1,000 yards receiving, 8 touchdowns, the most yards per or yards after catch in the NFL right now. He's unstoppable, and it goes to show you. When I look at an MVP candidate, if you were to take that guy from the team, would they be as good? The Dolphins, absolutely not. Jalen Waddle's a great wide receiver, but he's great because Tyreek is the one. Much like Calvin Ridley was great in Atlanta because Julio Jones was the one. And I just think Tyreek is doing things that are unstoppable. He's actually accelerating his career forward when he doesn't have Patrick Mahomes throwing him the ball. That's what's so ironic about this whole thing, is he's doing better and he's even more lethal, or considered more lethal, on Miami than he was maybe even in Kansas City. And so when you have over 1,000 yards receiving, 8 tutties, and Miami's going to the playoffs this year, how can you not put Tyreek at number 1? So Ev, I'll kick it back over to you for our second guy.
Yeah, I can't argue there. I think this is probably the top wide receiver, but I'm going to match you with the wide receiver, and it's going to be A.J. Brown. For me, yeah, I think A.J.'s kind of being slept on a little bit just with how ridiculous the season he's having is. And if you look at, like Shiv mentioned earlier, Eagles' best record in the NFL, they're the best team in the NFL right now, and who's their best player? It's A.J. Brown. When they need a first down on third down, it's A.J. Brown. When they need a touchdown in the red zone, it's A.J. Brown. He can do it all. He's just been abusing corners everywhere. Devontae Smith is a solid kind of high-end number 2, and has been a big play guy this year. But, when they need a play made, it's definitely going to A.J. Brown. So I think he's right on the same level with Tyreek Hill and, being on the best team in the NFL. I think he definitely has a shot at it.
Yeah, that's a great answer, Evan. And I think like Christian, Tyreek, AJ Brown were all guys that I immediately thought of when we thought about this segment. So my idea was I'm going to go in a different direction because I knew you guys would have my back there and cover it. So my idea is actually you pick Christian McCaffrey, but I want to point to Trent Williams because I'm going to pick Trent Williams as one of my MVPs. I think that's someone, offensive line, they don't get the love they deserve. We're talking about left tackle position. You want to talk about a guy that's absolutely changed the trajectory of a team. The San Francisco 49ers with Trent Williams look like the best team in the NFL. Nobody questioned it before he got hurt. The moment Trent Williams goes down, they lose 3 in a row. And that's like, I understand Debo was hurt. I understand other players were hurt, but it's not like their offense didn't have pieces in the meanwhile. It's not like McCaffrey wasn't still scoring touchdowns every week up until this past week. The difference was Trent Williams holding the fort down at the offensive line position where that blindside guy isn't getting there and Christian McCaffrey's getting more holes. He comes back and they immediately go back to absolutely trouncing a team that we expected to be good and a team that we expected to hold their own against the 49ers. And that didn't happen. They destroyed the Jaguars as soon as he came back. So Trent Williams is actually, I think, at the top of my list when it comes to MVPs more than most, because I just don't think offensive line get the love they deserve.
I love that inclusion. Good job, Cy.
Appreciate you, man.
That was good. All right, Chivy, back over to you.
Cool. No, yeah, can't argue any of these picks so far, guys. So let's keep it rolling, and hopefully nobody has any grudge against mine. But my next one is going to be. So I think obviously Tyreek and AJ have been sort of leading the wide receiver class, but I think talk about being slept on, and somebody who's really come on in the last 3 to 4 weeks. CeeDee Lamb is the receiver that I think is going to be. If you talk about a second half MVP, if you look at the last 4 games that Dallas has been 3-1 in, CeeDee's had 41 catches, 617 yards, and 3 touchdowns in the last 4 games. Third in the league in total yards. Dallas is number 4 in total offense. Actually ahead of Philly. Philly's sitting at number 5. And I look at kind of what stands out to me with CeeDee is, if you compare him to Philly and Miami, I actually think Dallas in terms of offense, so much of the focus is on CeeDee because, you're not really, if you think about it, the other, Michael Gallup's on the other side, nothing against Michael Gallup, but could you argue that Michael Gallup is not as good as Jalen Waddle or Devontae Smith or Dallas Goedert or, some of the other weapons that are on some of these teams. So I think, I think Jake Ferguson is actually the tight end for Dallas is Dak's like second favorite target behind CeeDee. And if you look at the output from the run game and Tony Pollard, like it's really not been that significant, this season. It's actually very reminiscent to last year when people were saying, "Oh, Tony looks better than Zeke," and now this year we're seeing kind of Tony slipping up a little bit, and now Rico maybe is having a kind of a flash in the pan here. So I think CeeDee is hitting his stride right when Dallas needs to start sort of separating themselves.
Yeah, that's a good one. That was one of my kind of under the radar ones.
Yeah.
Like you mentioned, just the last few weeks with how well Dak's been playing, and he's been a huge part of that. So. Those are pretty much the main guys I had. I'll throw out an honorable mention. A guy we've talked about a lot this year is Travis Etienne. He's been another guy that's been just a huge share of the offense for Jacksonville, who is, currently holding a slim division lead. So, just with the massive, volume he's getting on the ground and through the air, would be kind of my next man up from an offensive player standpoint.
I think you still got your second too, though, Zach, right?
Oh, sorry.
As well.
Did I steal it?
I would actually disagree with the Travis Etienne pick. The dude is averaging 3.9 yards a carry. I love him from a fantasy standpoint, and he is lethal when it comes to the run and pass game. But is it really MVP candidacy worthy? I would challenge you on that one, Evan.
Well, who else is there? I mean, I'd be I'll be keen to see who else you got. Austin Eckler missed like 4 games. Now he could be if he keeps coming back and playing that way. But anyway, sorry, Zach, I didn't mean to jump you. So
no big deal. But I actually think I might get some flack because I hope this guy is more prominent than ETN. And I'm gonna take the shot. Ja'Marr Chase. Ja'Marr Chase is obviously not killing it from a wide receiver threshold. We've listed 3 guys that have outperformed him, no doubt. But when you look at the futuristic ability right here with Joe Burrow starting to play a lot better here, the Bengals overall are starting to play better. Ja'Marr Chase is a huge driver behind that. And I'm going to talk about yards after catch. He's the second highest wide receiver player in general with yards after catch. So you can't discount that. I mean, he is impossible to cover. You will see every year he is a guy that goes off for a 60-yard bomb, and he's uncoverable. It's like the perfect combination of strength and speed. So, when you got 800 yards and 5 touchdowns like Ja'Marr Chase does, he ain't slowing down. He's not even close. So that's my number 2.
I like that. I guess, Av, you kind of gave your second.
Go
right?
for it.
I understand the Ja'Marr Chase and CeeDee Lamb trajectory, though, because it's kind of showing like the reason I like pointing to players like that, like the way I pointed to Trent Williams or maybe even Austin Eckler, is you're talking about for a team to reach their potential, this is a player you need to get involved, right? And that's Ja'Marr Chase and CeeDee Lamb are your perfect example of that because look at how much better those teams look when those guys are getting the ball consistently and the way that they should be, right? So I totally understand that. With that being said, I was torn between 2 linebackers for my third spot, and the 2 would be Micah Parsons or Fred Warner, who play 2 completely different styles of linebacker. Micah Parsons being the pass rusher and Fred Warner being a guy that, in the NFL landscape gets his flowers a lot, but in the landscape of podcasts and stuff, I don't think he gets talked about nearly enough because he's by far and away the best middle linebacker or just best linebacker in the NFL that isn't a pass rusher. And I'm kind of torn between the 2. I'm going to go in Micah's direction. I want to give Warner his flowers, but I'm going to go in the Micah direction just because he's such a game wrecker. It's absurd. Like, especially with kind of his story of like, character concerns, having him fall and him just being this guy that looked, maybe he's undersized. Maybe he's not like strong enough, whatever it is. And he's just absolutely dominated from day one. And Dallas's defense is the reason that team is good. As great as their offense has been recently, even when Dak and them were struggling, they were winning games by like 30 points because their defense has just been so damn good. And the reality is Micah's the leader of that defense, and he's the heart of that team. And I think when you think about that, I got to give him a shout out. And I can't even believe we haven't talked about him yet because that's how good he is. So Micah's going to be my number 3.
No argument.
All right, Mr. Shiv, what's the third for you?
Cool. Yeah, I'll round my and again, there's been a lot of overlap with some of our picks, but I think I'm glad that we've got some backups to go to, or some of the honorable mentions are now climbing into the top bracket. So again, for me, when you think about MVPs, the team's got to be successful. They've got to be a winning team. They've got to be a catalyst to that, a big reason to it. And I mean, I think people still are not talking enough about the Lions, 7-2, leading the NFC North. That they could very well run away with that division, which I'm sure they probably will. And you have a few guys on that team, aside from Jared Goff, that are playing really, really well. So they've got a 2-headed monster, the running back position between Gibbs and Montgomery. It's good to see Montgomery coming back in the fold while Gibbs, the rookie, starting to take off. But St. Brown has been, again, in that tier 1 of wide receivers for me. I mean, talk about yards after the catch, big playability. I mean, averaging almost 13 yards a catch, 821, yards on the season. I'd like to see him get some more touchdowns. Only 4 touchdowns through through week. What are we now in 10 here? Approaching
Yeah,
11,
week
week
10-ish.
11 here. So
Mhm.
want to see him get in the end zone a little bit more, but I think again that Lions team is so stacked between the two running backs, Laporta, again a rookie. It's good to see like the Lions finally having success with such a young team. Like this team is going to be a force to be reckoned with
Mhm.
for you could argue the next 4 or 5 years consistently, right? And
Mhm.
again, I think Jared Goff's playing. This is the best football he's played in his career, even taking into account the Super Bowl run he had with the Rams. So I think St. Brown again has been everything is advertised, and you can even see when I think that he's missed a game here during the season, and how there's been a drop off in offensive production. You see how vital he is to Jared Goff in that offense, and I think a big reason he'll continue to be in the conversation if the Lions continue to have the success they've been having.
I just want to say something real quick before we move forward, just because the Tennessee guy teed this up perfectly with the Virginia Tech guy on here. I feel like there's some subconscious there where Shiv's probably becoming a Lions fan with Hendon Hooker due to be the quarterback in a few years, I'm guessing. And I just had to bring up Hendon Hooker with
I like
Virginia
that.
Tech on here just because y'all straight up snatched that man and made him something special. And now he's on a team with a bright future there. So I just want to throw that out there.
Yeah, no, I hope he's doing well too, man. It was really unfortunate
Mhm.
how he went down last season, and he's such a high character guy. I think, obviously, I'm never going to throw shade to Virginia Tech. So I'll tell you that because, both my parents went to
Better
Tech.
than
I've
me.
got Virginia roots. So I'll never, I've got Tech will always have a soft spot in my heart. But no, I'm glad to see Hooker in a position where he can focus on getting help, not getting thrown. I look at some of these situations, man, with rookie quarterbacks getting put into situations where, clearly they're not ready. I mean, we can talk about how the Bryce Young situation has been handled different time. But I'm glad that he has an understudy, in terms of being able to look up to a guy like Jared Goff, who I think again has, had took a lot of constructive criticism early in his career when you talk about holding onto the ball too much, too long, not getting rid of it fast enough, turnovers. But he's able to. I think Jared Goff has molded himself into a top 7, top 8 quarterback this year.
I like this.
I think, and it's going to be beneficial. You look at all the quarterbacks that have had success. I mean, there've obviously been exceptions to the rule, but guys like Aaron Rodgers, who's been able to sit for a couple of years. People, even Tom Brady. You can look at he had Drew Bledsoe, at least for a season. It's just to kind of take everything in. Because that confidence, once it gets rocked, you look at what's happened to Bryce, to Sam Bradford, to
Zach Wilson,
to Zach Wilson, like all these guys. Like I think they're Sam Darnold. Sorry, I didn't mean Sam Bradford. Sam Bradford had some success in the NFL, but Sam Darnold was who I was talking about. And I think it's really important that they're in a stable situation to start, and I'm glad Hooker is.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. And speaking of a quarterback that maybe got thrown to the wolves here early on the subject, you got the kid. What's the Iowa State quarterback's name in San Francisco? He's not Purdy. But I am going to talk about one of his receivers as a dark horse candidate. This guy is clearly not on the MVP radar, but he should be because of his talent alone. It's Brandon Ayuk. Brandon Ayuk, let me tell you a little bit about him. He's on pace for 1,400 yards and over 6 touchdowns. And he gets half of the targets that top wide receivers named. So who do we name? Shiv named CD, Evan named A.J. Brown, I named Tyreek. All of those guys have double the targets than Brandon Ayuk. Yet Brandon Ayuk is still producing at a wide receiver 1 caliber rate. He's not only a great route runner, he's got deep threat potential with smoking a corner in the slot or on the outside. And he's also a great blocker. Man, he's like put some people on their ass this season. So had to give Brandon Ayuk a shout out as a centerpiece of that dynamic offense, not a beneficiary of that offense.
I got a bit of a rebuttal on that one, actually, and it's not just because I'm a Debo fan, right? Because put Debo aside, because I think Debo has obviously been a beneficiary of that offense as well. What I will say is, yes, he does have a lot of yardage on less targets, but the reality is if you take any of those top receivers we're talking about and you put them in an offense where they're getting that level of like ability to get one-on-one matchups with you having to worry about Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, that offensive line, their backup running backs, Debo on the other side, those guys are going to absolutely eat because the reality is that offense sets them up for success. So although I do think Ayuk is very good, I've noticed him getting a lot of love recently, and I'm not saying he's not deserving of it, but I do think he's getting a little bit of that overhyped, and that's not specifically you, Zach. I'm talking about like amongst friend groups and coverage because I think he is a very good player, but I don't think he's like an upper echelon level wide receiver. But that's why he's a dark horse, right? So I like it. I just want to kind of throw it out there.
I would argue that's the Miami model, though, too. I mean, the types of coverage that Tyreek Hill sees thanks to Mike McDaniel's brilliance with Waddle on the other side. They don't have a tight end like Kittle, obviously, but they can pound the ball. Like it's the same kind of model, right? That kind of schemed open. But I think Ayuk is a stud.
I don't think I agree with that though, because I think Tyreek Hill can literally. I could pick him up and put him on an offense with us, and the man would absolutely cook everybody and their mothers. Like Tyreek Hill's on a different planet, dude. Like I'm not complaining, Brand. I'm not comparing those two personally.
Sure, he also sees a lot of benefit from McDaniel though. What do you got, Shiv?
Yeah. No, I think that's so. And it's funny because this sort of begs the question of like, what are we assessing wide receivers on? Right? Are we just focused on yards after the catch or touchdowns or total yards, like that holistic? So if you think about like Brandon Ayuk and guys like Deebo Samuel, there's Tyreek Hill can't do what Deebo Samuel can do, and I'm not saying Deebo Samuel can do what Tyreek Hill can do in terms of being a Swiss Army knife, being able to run the ball, kind of being this gadget guy, and if you look at sort of the criteria to say like what does a standout wide receiver do, like it's tough to me where to call like, and as I know I'm not throwing any shade at Tyreek Hill, but I think when you look at longevity, and I know he's approaching 29, 30 now, I'm concerned about like once he crosses 30, he starts to lose a bit of that speed, a little bit of that agility. Mm-hmm. He's not a great route runner. He's definitely a dash sort of blow by, take the top off my defense sort of guy. He's not a guy you're really going to run in the slot, obviously, because he's tiny. I don't see him kind of coming through the middle and really sort of absorbing some big hits. So I think some of these guys like Ayuk and Samuel, and that's why I said CD, guys like CD, AJ Brown, they have a little bit more versatility to their game, which I think allows them to kind of cover multiple levels of the defense. So, they can have the intermediate routes, they can have the short curls, they can have the post routes, the go routes. Like everything is kind of open in the playbook, right? Where to Evan's point, I think Miami is kind of set up in a way where you've got basically, even though A-Chain's been out like for the last like 4 weeks, I think he's still like a top 20 rusher in the league. And obviously Mostert's been playing well from a goal line perspective. They're on such an explosive team. I think Tyreek has benefited from going from obviously a juggernaut in Kansas City and playing with arguably the best quarterback of all time, and now has gone to a situation in Miami where the team has been, he's obviously the focal point, but the other surrounding pieces are enabling him to play to his strengths. Where I think some of these other teams and the receivers and some of the skill position players have had to incorporate some of the versatility into their game, whether it be blocking or sacrificing catches to actually, either sacrifice for the betterment of their team. So it's tough.
I'm really glad we're having this conversation though, because Zach made Zach picked Tyreek as an MVP, and here's my firm belief: Tyreek made Tua, and now when Tyreek leaves, I still believe Tua will be good. But before Tyreek Hill got to Miami, that Miami offense was nonsense. Like even with Waddle, even with some of the stuff they're drafting or whatever. I don't think they would have been anything close to what they were. I think Mike McDaniel is obviously an incredible offensive mind. I love Mike McDaniels. I root for him every week. But I believe Tyreek Hill, the reality with him is I do agree with you. I don't think he possesses some of the abilities of like the strength and whatever that some of these guys do. But I actually think his route running is understated. I think he would make a terrific slot receiver one day because there's a lot of like small slot receivers, guys like Josh Downs and others who are absolutely eating at that position because they're just so quick and able to.
Do you think he'll do that though, Si? Do you think Tyreek Hill will accept a slot role?
But that's not my point though, right? Because the reason I'm saying that I think he'd make a good slot receiver is because you mentioned that as he gets older, you don't think he would. So I'm just counteracting that, right? Because the point that I'm trying to make is I could put Tyreek Hill on any NFL offense in any spot on the receiving core, and he's just so dang unguardable. And the reason I'm so vehement about that is because I was one of those people that used to say that Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, the Chiefs offense made Tyreek Hill as good as he is. And now it feels like, back in the day when I would take a hot take just because I didn't want to believe that someone was good. But now I realize how wrong I was. And that's why I'm so vehement about that's why I think he is an MVP, like Zach said. I think he's literally just leaps and bounds better at what he does than anyone else in terms of like blowing up a defense. And that's why I think he's an MVP. But anyway, I know I'm going on my tangent. I just love Tyreek Hill's ability that much.
It's probably Evan, go for it, man, before we transition.
No, I was just going to say, I do think his route tree is a lot bigger now with Miami. Like if they need just like a 10-yard first down, like, he's their guy in this offense as well. Whereas in Kansas City, I do think you mainly saw, just going over the top and yard after catch, right? And then Kelsey up over the middle. But we get to do some recaps, or you guys got some other
I got one super deep dark horse sleeper for like 2 seconds because this doesn't have to be some crazy segment for me personally, but we used to talk about, and obviously he's not going to MVP, but we used to talk about like A-Chain, for example, right? Because before he got hurt, you saw the ability that like a fast, like dynamic player on a good offense can bring to him. He was literally just taking the top off defenses with his speed and running ability. I just want people to keep an eye on Keaton Mitchell because if the Ravens actually give him the ball the way that he should be getting the ball, he's the next A-Chain. I mean, that man had literally 2 carries last game and 2 targets last game, and he had over 80 yards and a touchdown and almost caught a second touchdown. Like, give that man the football and see what happens. So I just want to put a really deep sleeper on my guy, Keaton Mitchell, who plays Thursday night, by the way.
Haven't heard of him.
Exactly.
Sai just he went into this podcast as I do pretty much every week. There's one thing I need to mention, and I'm slipping this into the podcast. I don't care where, and that was his for the week.
100%. Who's listening to me because I have him on a couple fantasy leagues, but I'll leave it there.
All right, let's jump into recaps. Shiv, I guess we usually, I think we mentioned earlier, but we'll just quickly go through some of the games from last week and. Anything that stood out to you that you want to mention here, just kind of some quick takes in about 10 minutes or so we can get to picks. But I guess the first game I'll bring up is Texans-Bengals. I did not see Houston coming on the road to Cincinnati and pulling this upset, and I think it really completely twists the AFC playoff picture on its head with Cincinnati on the outside looking in. Houston a game out of the division lead and currently in a wild card spot. CJ Stroud in the MVP conversation. I think this is one of the more impactful games, not of the week, but of the year in terms of how we view the playoff picture before and after. So yeah, that was a big one for me.
Yeah, Stroud's awesome. He is absolutely awesome. I do want to temper the expectations people are putting on the Texans now, though, because this team also went to they went to Zach's home and Shiv's home and lost to the team that might not win a game for the rest of the season. So let's not just assume that a 500-ish team who can beat anybody but can also lose to anybody is going to automatically be a force in the AFC. That's all I'm saying there. But I'll leave it there.
All right, I'll bring up the Buffalo Bills Broncos game because I actually want to concede defeat, and I will give Evan credit where credit's due. Evan's been saying that the Bills are frauds from the start of this season. even after they got back on track after losing to the Jets. Well, he just hasn't been as high on the Bills as obviously Cy and I have. It's cost us a couple of betting bucks here as well. But I think last night was just the epitome of the Bills season, right? Just turnovers. There's no one's arguing that they cannot drive the ball down the field. The problem is there's way too much risk involved in that offensive scheme. I'm not sure if you guys saw today, but I believe Ken Dorsey got fired, actually, the OC for Buffalo. So if that doesn't show you that they're pushing the panic button, then I don't know what does. And the Broncos on their third straight win, Shiv, I'll ask you the question. Do you think the Broncos are better than what people say, or do you think the Bills are just really that bad?
So I think last night's game, the Bills really defeated themselves. Like I look at that Broncos team, and I know they've won 3 straight, and there's going to be a whole lot of talk about Sean Payton's figured it out, Russ has figured it out. You tell me I watched every down of that game last night. The Broncos are not good. They are not good. They had no business winning that game. That game should have been a rout. I do think the turnovers with Josh Allen. I mean, Josh Allen since 2018 is leading the league in turnovers. But I think that the Bills have way too much talent to not figure it out. I mean, time is of the essence now. What are they? I think they dropped to 5-5 after yesterday's loss. So things are. I mean, they've got to go on a run here. I mean, you could argue they've got to potentially run the table. I think, or maybe can lose maybe one game depending on who it is too. But they've got to get their acts together, and it's definitely not. It's not good to lose to a team that's significantly worse than you at home. So
yeah,
tough to be a Bills fan.
Yeah, I've been saying for years that I'm not gonna buy into the Bills actually being Super Bowl contenders until they can win the big playoff game. Evan was even more down on them this year after being more up on them last year, so I got to give him tip to cap because I definitely thought they were going to win last night by like at least a touchdown, and they didn't. But at what point, and I've been saying for years that I don't trust them, but at what point are we going to start talking about Sean McDermott being the problem just as much as anyone else? Because I'm kind of tired of him kind of getting a pass all the time when a lot of other coaches put on the hot seat, even though the Bills time and time again have underwhelmed when they need to show up. And I feel like we don't hear his name much, even though you could argue in terms of a team with talent has, let down more than most. And Ken Dorsey, took it for him. But the reality is McDermott's supposed to be the leader of that team, and I don't see any fire from them. So I'm just throwing that out there. And also moving to other teams that should have won games that they didn't. Were the Ravens trying to lose on Sunday? Like were they intentionally?
That was going to be my surprise at home too.
Yeah, did someone
did
someone call him and say tank this game? Because legitimately it looked like they were trying to lose. When they get the ball on offense and they do nothing, they're just so stagnant. And that team is too good to lose that game being up as much as they were. Their defense played great to start the game. Their offense was converting, and then it felt like, no offense, Zach, but it felt like the Falcons in the Super Bowl. They just phoned it in and then just went and took a nap, and then just slowly but surely the Browns came back and won the game. And that game the Ravens should have won. They looked like clearly the better team, and they just phoned it in. I don't know what was going on there, so I just want to put that one out there.
Dude, I disagree, man. I think the Browns bullied the Ravens. I mean, they conquered the line of scrimmage outside of a freak show play where, Kyle Hamilton, who is a beast, first round pick, last year for the Ravens, or I guess this is his second year, but, incredible interception return for a touchdown. But when you look at the thick of it, the Browns battled back like any great team would, where they're expected to come back. Both teams dropped over 30. I think both of these teams are good. I really do. I still think the Ravens are better than the Browns, but I think they got dominated on home turf, and it just goes to show you the gridiron nature of the AFC North. I love that division. I think it's the most fun division right now in the NFL.
Agreed. That is the best division in the NFL, in my opinion.
Ev, what do you got?
What else we got here? Quick, we kind of talked about the 49ers, but to come off the bye and just absolutely murk a really good team on the road in the Jaguars. Obviously super impressive. Cy mentioned getting Trent back. And then it's also the flip side of that is that's a really disappointing effort by the Jaguars. I was pretty high on them during our power rankings segment. I'm going to have to walk that one back a little bit. I think that's a big step back for them.
Yeah. The Chargers game with the Lions was the game of the week, though. That was amazing. That was such a good game.
Yeah, it was a nice duel, that Goff-Herbert matchup. I think it was the highest scoring game too in terms of
Mm-hmm.
total points. Right?
And Herbert played like an MVP in his defense,
Yeah.
even though they lost that game. Like he did everything he could to try to win that game. Neither defense really showed up, but that was a really good game. I think both
I
teams
feel
really
like
showed up.
that Chargers team, man, it's tough because with all that, yes, as good as, and I think Herbert has the potential to be the face of the NFL for sure. But it just feels like that this team has been stuck in neutral for
Yeah.
a few years, Like I just don't see them really getting any better. And I'm not saying Herbert's the reason. And they've got some playmakers. I know, Eckler, and they've had a couple of injuries. Obviously, I think Mike Williams going down earlier in the year, and then Keenan Allen's been having a renaissance. I mean, 10th year, and he's looking like one of the best receivers in the league. So I don't know what it is with that team. Like I'd expect them to be more of a contender in that AFC West. It looks like they're going to probably be watching the playoffs from home this year, sitting at 4-5 unless something miraculous happens the next couple months. But that team. That team's got too much talent to kind of be right in the middle of the pack.
The Chargers always lose that 3-point close game back and forth. They lose it 10 times out of 10. And I'm going to give you 4 teams that we've talked about here that are all kind of in the same bucket for me. The Chargers, the Cowboys, the Ravens, the Bills. Teams that have tons of talent and they just lack that finishing touch. And like they always make mistakes at the end of games. They can't close out games. Coaching decisions, like it's just the same, the kind of the same story, and not just this year, but it's over the last 5 years, and with that crew of players. Mm-hmm. So I just view them in the same kind of way, and like I would never trust any of those teams in the playoffs to win more than say like 2 games.
So I think you are identifying the problem. It's a coaching problem. So Shiv said, okay, is it a Herbert problem? Probably not. It's a Brandon Staley problem, and I actually think that he's going to be the first coach that gets canned this season. We've made a lot of fun of Arthur Smith, but I think that Brandon Staley is next up on the firing. He's on the hot seat for sure.
Of a rumor that I heard actually like a few weeks ago, and I don't know if it's a rumor as much as it is just kind of wishful thinking, but I heard that if the things continue to go south in Foxborough, that you could see Belichick walking or getting fired, whatever, and then taking the Chargers job, which I think would be a tremendous opportunity for him. He finally gets, a viable quarterback, a team with a lot of ability on offense, so he can focus on the defensive side of the ball, which is kind of his bread and butter, which I think is where the reason for a lot of the Chargers' woes anyway. So that'll be interesting if that happens. I mean, I think Bill's reached sort of the crossroads with the Patriots. I think they all just need to kind of go their separate ways. Tom Brady chapter's gone. Bill Belichick's got to go now too. But that's something I heard. It'd be interesting if that actually happened.
I'm actually so glad you brought. Sorry, go ahead, E. Go ahead, E.
No, you're probably going to say it, so I won't.
Yeah, I'm actually so glad you brought up Bill Belichick because the Colts played Patriots. I'm a Colts fan. We bet on that game actually, and the reason I'm glad you brought it up is Mac Jones was terrible that whole game. Our defense ate him alive, and the hilarious part is literally in the last 2 minutes of that game, the 2-minute drive after Mac Jones played the entire game, they took him out in the last 2 minutes of the game and put in Zappe, which is I've never seen that in my life. Like he didn't get hurt. They literally just decided this guy's going to play 90% of the game, and then when the game matters the most, we're going to go to a 4th-round pick that,
and he still came in for a pick. I think Zappe ended that game with a pick.
Well, right? To be fair, he looked better in 2 plays than Mac Jones did the whole game. But then, he threw a pick in a big moment.
Yeah,
it was crazy.
Yeah, I don't feel bad. Mac is my favorite guy to root for. He's arguably the dirtiest player in the NFL, which is insane for a quarterback with his like frame and stature. Like he's not the guy I would ever pick to win a fight. So I don't know why he's out there picking him. But
what is it? What do you think? Why do you think it's not working out for him? Like he had a pretty promising rookie year. Things were pointing up. What's the reason for the regression we're seeing?
He's not good.
Regression. It's like an all-out just like jumping off a cliff. I feel like
he's just not good. Like the guy got drafted. I think they probably drafted him because they were like, oh, there's like Brady comparisons. Like he doesn't have the best arm strength, but he's super accurate and he's, a smart dude, probably because he's like your traditional white looking dude that looks like, a nerd and plays quarterback. And they're like, we're going to pick him up and Bill Belichick's going to make him great. And the reality is he just sucks. Like there was just better players out there, and they picked him in the first round. And guys like Lamar Jackson end up going at the end of the first round. And this is why in recent drafts you see players that are more athletic and more able to be shaped by good coaches than you do the prototypical like Mitch Trubisky's of the world or the Josh Rosens of the world. And Mac Jones was the last of that dying breed. And I'm so glad that he is, because I'm tired of guys like that getting opportunities in the NFL when they don't deserve it. And I know that was very hostile on my part, but I just stand by it. I'm just so frustrated watching guys like that play football.
Recapping where we're at, we got a new top dog here, gents. I have passed Zach for the lead after another good week. So we're real tight. I think I have a 1-game lead on Zach, and then Cy has also been having a strong the last few weeks and is 1 game behind Zach. So we're tight, gents. We are as tight as it gets.
I gotta step it up.
And a shout out, our first parlay hit. Solid 3 for 3, gents. I won't mention the fact that we also layered in a 4-game, which Zach's Atlanta Falcons have once again cost us. But starting off week 11 in the NFL, we actually have some great primetime games this week. The first one is Cincinnati at Baltimore. Baltimore is a 3.5-point favorite at home. Let's start with the guest. Let's start with Shiv.
Yeah, this is going to be a great matchup. It's actually nice that we finally get a really good game on a Thursday night. Both teams coming off a loss. I think, obviously both teams would like to win, but I think the Bengals need this win a little bit more than the Ravens do. So I'm going to go the Bengals over the Ravens on the road.
Cy?
Baltimore win and cover.
Zach?
Baltimore win and cover. I'm not on Shiv's side for this one.
I actually originally had Baltimore winning cover, but I agree. I think, for whatever reason, I think that we're just going to keep turning the AFC North on its head. Cincinnati needs a win. I'm going to give Cincinnati the road win and avenge the earlier season loss to Baltimore at home. Next game, 1 p.m., Dallas at Carolina. Dallas is an 11-point favorite on the road. Dallas winning cover for me. Zach?
Dallas wins by 1 million.
Give me that cover again. Let's just get another good bet in there. Let's go.
Shiv.
Yeah, I won't even. I think this is a pointless one. I think you guys
concur. Next game, back in the AFC North, another huge game. It's Pittsburgh at Cleveland. Cleveland is a 3.5-point favorite at home. Let's start with Zach.
Give me Cleveland win and cover.
Cy?
Wait, you said 3.5 at home for Cleveland?
Yep.
Yeah, give me Cleveland win and cover.
Shiv?
Again, concur.
Yeah, I've got Cleveland winning cover as well. I do like Pittsburgh, though, but it's going to be tough on the road. Chicago at Detroit. Detroit is a 10-point favorite at home. Let's start with Cy.
10-point favorite. Oh, well, wait, hold on. You said Seattle?
No, Chicago at Detroit.
Oh, that's way better. Okay, yeah. Justin Fields is back, so I'm going to say Detroit wins, but Chicago covers.
I actually don't think he's going to be back. I thought he was going to be back, but then Eberflus seemed to say today that he needs some more time. So,
never mind. Detroit win and cover.
Yeah.
I was worried about this being a backdoor cover, right, where it's like a 14-point game and then Chicago scores last minute. We don't get the cover. But I think Detroit is going to smack them for some reason. So give me the win and cover at home in Detroit.
All right. Shiv?
Yeah, I think this is give me the Lions cover. I hope it goes over the 46.5 though, because I need Cole Kmet to have a big game. So, and it's good for me if Fields stays on the bench, because I think the backup likes throwing to Kmet a little bit more. So, but give me the Lions and cover.
Yeah, agreed for me. If Fields play, I'll say they don't cover. But yeah, same wavelength. Next game, Chargers at Packers at Lambeau. Chargers are a 3-point favorite on the road. Need a win. Shiv, let's start with you.
Yeah, I really like the Chargers to win this and cover, but I'm going to go. I think this is a big game for Jordan Love and that whole Packers regime. This could really dictate the outlook of the franchise. So they need this win. So give me the Packers.
All right. He played a lot better last week, so trending in the right direction. I have Chargers winning cover. I think they just the Packers have no shot at the playoffs, and I think the Chargers are going to be super desperate. I think Green Bay's awful, so Chargers winning cover. Zach?
Give me the Packers with Shiv. I just think the Chargers are going to struggle in the cold weather, passing the ball. They don't have a run game right now. Give me the Packers outright.
Until the Packers learn how to use Christian Watson, I'm picking the other team against them every week. I'm picking the Chargers to win and cover.
All right. Next game, Arizona at Houston. Houston is a 4-point favorite at home. Arizona obviously fully healthy again with Kyler and James Conner back as well. I'll start. Houston winning cover. I think they're giving Arizona a little too much credit. I like that line for Houston. Zach?
This is a tough one, man. I can see this being a 3-point game, but now thinking about it a little bit more clear, I think the Texans receivers are gonna be able to murk those Cardinals corners. So give me Texans win and cover 4.
Cy?
I think Arizona's going to cover it. I think the Texans will win, but I think Arizona's going to cover 4.5. I do.
All right, Shiv?
Yeah, I think the Texans are going to be too much. I think they're going to cover and win. You look at the Cardinals 0-5 on the road. As Zach mentioned, wide receivers are coming back. Nico Collins should be back for the Texans. Tank Dell's been on a tear, so I think the Texans are going to be too much to handle.
Great stat with the road record. I love it.
Love that.
Next game, Tennessee at Jacksonville. Jacksonville is a 6.5-point favorite at home. Let's start with Zach.
What happens when you get smacked in the mouth? Good teams come out and then they smack teams in the mouth. That's what I think is going to happen in Jacksonville this week. They're at home. They're against a team that is very unsure of themselves. Will Levis makes mistakes. Give me Jacksonville win and cover. This is my favorite spread of the week.
Cy?
Jacksonville win and cover.
Shiv?
Yeah, I mean, almost ditto what I said last time. Jacksonville win and cover. Titans 0-5 on the road, really finding no continuity on that offense. They got to get Derrick Henry involved. But yeah, until they figure that out, Jags all day.
I was actually going to throw a big-time dart here almost and take Tennessee to win outright. I'll say Jacksonville wins in a close game, but Tennessee doesn't cover. Or Tennessee does cover, excuse me.
Also, we're not giving Shiv any more street cred. I can see him typing and Googling stats as we speak.
Hey,
No,
how are you going to flame him like that?
Yeah.
Hey, man.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, we appreciate quality research.
Yeah, I can't,
We appreciate it, Chip.
prepared,
Thank
dude.
you.
Look at these notes over here, man. Yeah. Just looking
This
at my
guy's
little
got an
noteboard,
algorithm on his paper.
Yeah.
You guys know I'm always on my phone just trying to come up with stuff to flame you guys for. So I can't say I don't do the same. But
This is true.
next game, Las Vegas at Miami. Miami's an 11.5-point favorite at home. Let's start with Cy on this one.
Easy win and cover, Miami.
Shiv?
Yeah, easy win. A-Chain's back. I think that Miami's going to be rolling.
I'll say Vegas covers. They're playing better, especially defensively under Antonio Pierce. So, Zach?
Yes, I agree, but I think that that temporary team plays good under interim head coach only lasts about a week or two. Give me Miami win and cover here. I was thinking the same thing, Ev, but I think Miami's coming out hot off a bye.
Jalen Ramsey is going to eat, dude. Anyway, continue.
You said that last week, Zach, and they still won, so we'll see. Last 1 p.m. game is the Giants at the Commanders in D.C. Commanders are a 9.5-point favorite at home against Tommy DeVito. Start with Cy.
I'll give a Commanders win. I guess I'll give them the cover. I don't want to, but I guess I'll give them the cover.
Shiv?
Yeah, I'm going to go Commanders win and cover. I mean, the Giants struggle on the road. They struggle just generally, so give me the Commanders.
Zach?
If the Commanders can just score first for the first time this whole season, they're going to breeze by Danny DeVito or whatever the heck his name is from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. So give me the Commanders win and cover.
They scored first last week, bro. I got win and cover. Tampa Bay at San Francisco is our next game. San Francisco's a 10.5-point favorite coming back home. I'll say San Francisco wins but doesn't cover. Tampa Bay's played pretty well last week. So, Zach?
49ers win and cover.
What's the spread?
10.5.
Oh, yeah, it's spread. They're covering that.
Shiv?
Yeah, I agree.
Next game, New York Jets at Buffalo. Buffalo is a 6.5-point favorite. Zach?
I hate how I'm doing this, but give me Buffalo win and cover. I can't not do it, man.
Wait, hold
It's
on.
6.5. They can win by a touchdown, right?
I will say some of these numbers might have moved. I did this board last night, so it's possible some of the numbers are slightly different as we sit today. Seven.
Now.
Yeah, I'm looking at the board now. 7. Okay, so it's another half point, so call it 7.
Yeah, I still think the Buffalo will cover that, personally.
This is going to be my upset game of the week. I'm going to have Jets going and continuing to put Buffalo further into their misery. So give me the Jets upset win.
Wow.
You gotta risk it to get the biscuit, baby.
Yeah, I'm gonna say the Bills play fundamentally sound football for once, and blow them out. But that's probably asking for too much from them. Last 4 p.m. game, Seattle at the Rams. Seattle's a 1-point favorite on the road. Matthew Stafford looks good to go, is my understanding. Interesting rematch from when the Rams killed them in week 1. So let's start with Cy.
This is a really tough one because Seattle has not looked good on the road, and Stafford at home is usually way better. Oh, man. I'm going to pick Seattle just because I don't know how healthy Stafford is. I want to pick the Rams, but I don't know how healthy Stafford is.
Shiv?
Yeah, I'm gonna go Rams with this one. They got to figure out how to keep Matt upright. That offensive line is amongst the worst in the league. But you got to figure out how to get Cooper Kupp, Puka, Tutu Atwell the ball. They're Kyron Williams, I think, is going to be coming back as well, so they should be at full strength. So give me the Rams.
Yeah, I have Rams as well. One thing I'm trying to remind myself is that coming off a bye is huge, as we noticed last week. So give me Rams outright at home. Zach?
Give me Seattle, the cover -1.
All right. Sunday Night Football, Minnesota. Actually, I meant to mention Minnesota in our recap segment. Impressive win with Josh Dobbs over the Saints. But Minnesota at Denver. Denver is a now 2.5-point favorite at home, coming off the big win against the Bills. I can start us off. I have it's hard to come off that short week, so I think this is actually a tough game. I don't hate Denver. I think they're playing pretty well right now, so makes it tough, but I am going to take Minnesota outright here on the road.
Dude,
Zach?
I think Mile High. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Zach.
Or either one.
This is my second favorite spread of the week. Denver wins and covers.
Yeah, I think Mile High is going to get the best of Minnesota this week, and they don't have a running back. So hopefully Justin Jefferson's back, but Denver win and cover.
This is going to be another upset for me. I think Vikings go on the road. They've been 4-1 on the road, so I think they're well equipped for those conditions. Another week of Josh Dobbs understanding that playbook. So give me Minnesota.
Nice.
Love it. And gents, I know we want to go back to recording next Monday night, but we might need to look at this schedule because it's Philly at Kansas City, Super Bowl rematch on Monday Night Football. Kansas City's got a let's look for the updated number. 2.5 now. 2.5-point favorites at home. Let's start with Shiv.
Yeah, give me Kansas City covering and winning this. I think the Chiefs are bound for coming off a bye. They need I think they're tuned up for a high output scoring game. I'm really looking for an explosion on offense. So, Pat Mahomes, Pacheco, Kelsey really getting their acts together, MVS. So look for this to be a track meet, but Kansas City at home.
Man, so I got so happy when Shiv said Kansas City, but you know what? I'm going to agree as well. I think Kansas City is going to win this game and cover, and I normally pick against them in these type of games, Shiv. So I guess I'll pass the torch to you.
Yeah, so Shiv, both these guys picked the Eagles to win the Super Bowl last year, and I was like tooting my own horn about how bad I think Kansas City's got this, and they won, and I'm never picking against Kansas City. These guys know.
Yeah.
So Kansas City all the way. Kansas City all the way.
You just can't.
So both teams coming off a bye. I'm going to give Andy Reid the coaching edge because he's terrific coming off a bye. So how about I give you guys 2 picks here? I'll say Kansas City wins this game. I'm not confident about a cover if it does get to 3 again because I think it's going to be a close game. And then my second bonus pick is that the Eagles beat them in the rematch in the Super Bowl. So Kansas City this week, Eagles in 3 months in the Super Bowl. That's what I got. And that's it.
Here
Who's
we
got
have it, boys.
who's got
Scott?
any
Yeah.
hot take honorable mentions or
Yeah, I just want to say one thing. I didn't have my weekly segment of flaming 1980s Arthur Smith's offense. I didn't get to this week is because the picks didn't come up, and I was gonna flame the Falcons and make a point of the fact that I will never bet on the Falcons in my life again, or at least this year. I'm over exaggerating, so I'm just taking the moment right now to say I'm done with Arthur Smith forever, like ever and ever and ever and ever. This period, I'm never betting him again. Sorry, Zach, I just had to say it.
Also, I saw a meme the other day. Kyler Murray runs like a little kid that took like a cookie from a candy jar or something.
Yeah.
So next time you guys watch Kyler Murray play, I guarantee you're going to see it, and you'll never look back.
Yeah,
Shiv?
it'll be this weekend.
No, I mean, does it get any more hot take than Jets going and trying on the road to beat Buffalo and try and go 2-0 against Buffalo in the same season? So I think I was the first one to get my hot take. So I'll save one a week for me. Nothing else.
I love it. My honorable mention is that everyone should watch College Game Day 9 a.m. on Saturdays. It's going to be a lot of fun. Go Deuce. Ranked in basketball for the first time in program history, ranked in football. On the only 6 teams are ranked in both. So fun time. But I guess that's it.
Tipping the cap, indeed. Sorry, this is impressive.
Thank you, gents. Shiv, pleasure having you on. Any last words? Hopefully we'll have you on again soon.
Yeah, for sure. Hopefully, hopefully I don't have to wait it out another year before I get an invite. But no, it's been an absolute pleasure, guys. I'm sure there's a lot of other people, like I said, who's been waiting in line to get on this on a Tuesday night. But I'm glad I finally got my opportunity, and it's been fun to chalk it up, and look forward to the next time, hopefully soon.
Talk about tipping the cap too, boys. I think we gotta tip the cap to Shiv, man. He averaged 6 minutes and 43 seconds a mile for 26.2.
That's so
That's unreal.
wild.
And it was your first marathon. That's insane.
Yes.
That's truly insane.
And more to come, man. So more to come on that. So we'll start getting some bets in on what the over under is going to be.
MDS will be on that line. We'll be betting the under. We got you, man.
Yeah.
We need to have like a game. Your next marathon, we're gonna take your pace across the whole marathon, and then each of the other 3 guys on this screen are gonna run their fastest single mile, and we're gonna see who's this faster. Because I think 6:43 might have me beat on even just 1 mile. So
mind over matter, boys. Mind over matter.
I love this.
I love it. That was my.
We should do that.
We should definitely do
Yeah. All right. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. That was Mondays Down South.